Hello. Welcome back to my channel. Over the next 6 weeks, every other Friday's video is going to be something that I have been slowly working on over the past month, approximately month and a week at this point. When I moved at the end of August, one of the things I had to do was clean out everything from my parents' house. And I came across 3 books that I had loved from elementary school. It got me thinking about how much I would love to reread them. And then I thought that would make a great video series. Originally, I wanted the video to just be one video and I was gonna reread like 10 books in one video. But I quickly realized in me rereading one of the books for middle school, which will be in 2 weeks from now, that for me to really talk about my experience of rereading each of them, I would need way more time than just one video for all of them. So I broke it into elementary school, which is today, middle school, which is in 2 weeks, and high school, which will be in 4 weeks. I was originally planning on reading 3 books for this video, and those books were going to be A Dog's Life by Anne M. Martin, City of Ember by Joanne Deprow, and then Wolf Brother by Michelle Paver. So each of these I read when I was much younger and loved them. Probably if I rated books at the time, I would have rated them 5 stars. But unfortunately, my life took a tumble, spun a little bit out of control, all for the good, thankfully. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I went from working 20 hours a week to working 40 hours a week with almost 0 notice. And because of that, I was only able to read these 2 books. I will send you off to the video parts where I read those 2 books and talked about my experience reading them. First up, you're gonna see this one, and then shortly after that, you're gonna see me talking about this one, and I hope you like and I hope you enjoy. Let me know how you feel about this video. So I've officially started my first book for my rereading my favorites from elementary school, which is A Dog's Life by Anne M. Martin. So I don't remember exactly when I read this book, but I was pretty dang young. I definitely was in elementary school. I loved dogs, I loved horses, I loved animals of all kinds. That was when I started riding horses, actually. I was 6, just about to turn 7. We adopted my dog when I was 8, which she has just passed this year, so this book is already kind of emotional for me. We owned mice when I was that age. We owned some different fish and lizards and snakes, which my mom didn't know about the snakes until this year when I finally told her. I loved animals so much, and so it makes total sense that I picked up a book like this. So this book is simply following the entire life of a dog, and so you see it from the dog's perspective from the day she's born. Her name is Squirrel, until I think she dies. I don't totally know if she dies at the end or if she just gets really old. I don't remember. There's a lot of stuff that kind of happens. She's a stray, but she's taken in by lots of different families, and it's sad. Most of the book is very, very sad. It deals with loss and grief and all kinds of stuff like that, and that's like the main thing I remember about it from when I was a kid. I just remember feeling so sad when reading this book. So I'm officially 60 pages in. It's only 182 pages, so I'm definitely going to be finishing this tonight. I'm at the part where, I guess if you don't want spoilers for this book, turn away right now. I'm at the part where Squirrel just got separated from her family, and so she's on her own and she's injured, and it's really sad. I do know that at some point, I think it's another animal dies in this book. It's a dog book. I mean, we know that there's going to be death in it because there's always death in dog books or dog movies. So like, it's just hard. I don't know why I do this to myself. I'm gonna go sit down and do some more reading for this, and I will let you know how far I get. It is much later. I actually finished this book hours ago, like at least 4 or 5 at this point. But I am having like a really hard time figuring out how to talk about it, what to rate it. So I've been pushing off doing this clip, but I can't push it off any farther. So let's quickly talk about my experience of rereading this book. First off is just an emotional book because dog stories are always emotional in general. Like, no matter who you are or how old you are, you read the life of a dog or you watch the movie of a dog, and it's like, maybe you don't cry, but you're probably sitting there going like, wow, this is more emotional than watching a human go through sad stuff. I have my retainer in, I'm sorry. I definitely should have taken it out to film. I think that I mostly was having the emotional reaction that I was having because I recently had to put my dog down. It was less than a month ago at this point. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. And it's been really hard on my family. We'd had her for 15 years. It's rough. And honestly, like, it's getting a little easier, but still there are just moments where you're like, oh yeah, she's not around anymore. Even though I will spoil it and say, because earlier I couldn't remember, the dog does not die at the end of this book. There's a lot of moments in the book where the dog kind of goes through hell with different owners. It made me emotional. I actually cried in this book. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I cried in this book. I did. And it wasn't in a moment that you would think someone would cry. Oftentimes when I cry in books or movies, it's not because like, oh my God, this is so sad. It's because, oh my God, this is so happy. I cry every single time I watch The Greatest Showman, and there's the dancing scene where Hugh Jackman finally marries his wife and they're dancing on the roof and she's pregnant. I cry every time in that scene because I just think about how far he's come and how all he really wanted in life was her, and I'm getting off topic. So I cried in the book when the dog finally got its forever home, and I was just thinking about how happy that made me to think about a dog finally like living this horrible life and finally getting a happy place to be. I did tear up at a few of the harder moments and a few of the moments where the dog struggles with its owners or struggles with whatever it's going through, but I didn't cry at any of those moments. I have no clue what to rate this book. I'm not going to put it through the same test that I put my other books through. So normally I not only rate books based off of my own version of Cawpile, but I also analyze books based off of the diversity that is shown in it. But since this is as it says, an autobiography of a stray, it's not really an autobiography, but it's told like it is one. Since this is like a fiction, non-fiction told about a dog's life, I can't really rate it on stuff like diverse cast and LGBTQ plus representation and stuff like that. So I can't do that side of it, and I'm having a hard time rating it because while it was super duper emotional and I loved it, I think that it would be really hard for me to give this 5 stars just because I'm not the audience for it, even though I loved it. I just have a hard time doing that, but also I think that it deserves 5 stars for the audience, which is elementary school students. So am I gonna give this book 5 stars? It's really hard for me to do. I might just give it 4.5, honestly. There were some moments that could have been better, especially in the beginning. The first whole entire part, which is about 60 pages, was kind of slow. I can't believe I'm deeply analyzing a book about a dog. I'm definitely gonna be keeping this one. I don't plan right now on ever having kids, but my brother has a child and might possibly one day have another child, and I think this would be a really cool book to keep around here so that when they're a little bit older they can read it. I don't know if I'll ever read it again. It was really quick though. I think less than 2 hours for me to get through. I think I'm just gonna have to give it a 4.5 and just know that for right now I can say that Elementary School Me is a pretty dang good book. Ignore my laundry. I am now going to be reading City of Ember, which was another book I remember loving when I was a small human child person. And then I reread this sometime in, I want to say it was around high school, and didn't really care for it that much. Probably when I was in elementary school, it would have been a 5 star. And then when I read it in high school, it was probably closer to a 2.5 or 3 star. I have no clue how this book is going to go with me, honestly. I have the physical book and I have the audiobook from my library. I plan on trying to start it and then reading as much of it as I can physically, and then anything that I can't, if there's a snag or whatever, I'm going to pick up the audiobook to continue with it. My library says that the audiobook is 7 hours long, So if I listen to that on a good speed, I'm gonna get through this really, really quickly. This will not be a one-day read for me because it is 3 o'clock right now and I have plans at 6. I'm gonna get started and I'll let you know how it goes. But before I go, I should tell you what this book is about. So this book is, in case you've never read it or seen the movie, I don't think I saw the movie ever. This book is following two characters, two POVs, two children, teenagers. I don't know exactly how old they are, honestly. And they live in this underground city of complete darkness. They think this is normal. And there are lights, power that's happening. Oh my God, this is a horrible description. Everything is lit up because they're completely underground. They don't really understand the concept of underground though. You learn that at the end. Am I spoiling this book? There are blackouts that are starting to happen in the city though. So these two children start to try to find a way to rescue the city, get them out, try to figure something out, do something with their lives. I know that it starts off where they are picking their jobs for their future, and I think it's some kind of like pull it out of a hat kind of a thing. Each of them gets the other person's dream job, and so they swap. And the main girl like can't figure out why this boy wanted the job she had because the job she had was horrible. I'm really confused why I remember so much about this book. And I'm a little bit fearful that because I remember so much, I'm gonna get bored with it, which is why we have the audiobook. And I've officially started. I'm approximately 12% through the book already. I am listening to the audiobook because I put it on while I was folding laundry just to start the book, and then I was like, okay, and then I'll switch to reading. And I have been doing some reading along while I'm listening, but the audiobook is fantastic. The woman who does it does a good job with all of the different voices and their sound effects, and I might just continue with the audiobook because it is really good. I also kind of want to comment on how dumb the job process goes in this world. You literally pick your job out of a hat. So they figure out, okay, there's 10 students, what jobs do we need most? We'll write 10 of them down, put them in a hat, and the kids pull them out. And I think that's really dumb because, well, I think it's kind of obvious why it's dumb. You know, someone like me would suck at being a doctor. There are other people who'd be really good at it, and if I pulled it out of the hat, I'd be stuck with that job for 3 years. That's the only issue I have so far. Otherwise, I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I was going to be enjoying it. I really like Dune, and I kind of wish I could have a little bit more of him, but I know we get more of him later, and I think why I like him so much is because he just kind of reminds me of people who are so passionate about stuff they believe in. Whereas Lena, I mean, she even says at one point, she's like, I wish he would stop taking things so seriously. She reminds me of so many people who are like, let's just ignore the important things in the world and kind of move on. And it's important to have a balance of those two things, but it's really interesting to see that in a children's book. I finished The City of Ember, and well, let's take the bookmark out of there. Enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I think the audiobook actually really helped me enjoy it more than reading it physically. I was reading along for a bit, but I got up and did other things every once in a while and just continued to listen to the audiobook, and it was done fantastically. If you're looking for a really good audiobook and you're kind of interested in picking up some middle grade dystopian, here's one I can recommend for you. Did not like it as much as the first time I read it, but I did not dislike it as much as the second time I read it. I think part of that is I've grown. So the first time I read it, I was juvenile and I didn't understand a lot of different things, and I think I looked up to a lot of the stuff in this book. And then the second time I read it, I thought I was an advanced reader, but in all actuality, I was still a very young reader. So I was annoyed by a lot of the things that happened in the book. Now that I'm older and have read hundreds, literal hundreds of more books since that time, I can appreciate annoying characters for what they do. Sometimes characters are really annoying and I can't get past it. I still have my hangups. I still have my hangups. Sometimes I can look beyond the annoyingness of characters and what their limitations are, and I can see that that's what the author was trying to do and that it is effective in what they're doing. I, this time, rated the book 3.5 out of 5 stars. Pretty much across the board in Call-Pile, it got 7s, except for Logic, which got really, really low rating. and I'm gonna kind of spoil some things right here, which I accidentally already spoiled. But if you don't know the plot of this book already, I apologize. So they are underground, and the whole entire idea is that the world was ending. The world was, something bad was happening. I don't fully understand what. These scientists, these builders sent, I think it was 50 couples and 100 babies underground. Yeah, so there's 200 people total underground to live there so that in a certain number of years they could come back above ground and the earth would be fine. I'm assuming if I continued on in the book series that I would understand that a little bit more, and I was actually a little bit curious to continue on in the series, but I looked on Goodreads and the rest of the books all have lower ratings overall. And I remember when I was younger, I did try to read the second one and I ended up DNFing because nothing was grabbing my attention. I think this book really talked a lot about greed and pride, and I think that I wasn't ready for that. And I think it was really interesting because it wasn't just like the villainous characters were greedy and prideful, but it was also our main two protagonists, and we saw how their greed and pride limited them in what they could do and what they could actually get done. I appreciated that stuff, but nothing in the book stood out to me as like exemplary, above and beyond, anything like that. So 3.5 out of 5 stars. I would recommend it. I'm actually going to hang on to my copy, and much like A Dog's Life, I am going to save these for when my nephew and if my brother has any other children get older, because I think this would be a great book to give to them. So both of those turned out a lot more positive than I thought they were going to be. Honestly, I read these two after I had read almost all of the books for middle school and high school, so I already know how those two videos are going to turn out, and this one is the most positive one that I have. Just warning you right now. Will not say anything else about those videos in this one, but I was kind of shocked how much I really enjoyed them, and I'm really bummed that I couldn't get to Wolf Brother in this time, but I am just kind of overwhelmed right now, and I don't think it's going to help to force myself to read this book. Anyways, I had a lot of fun with this video, and if you did too, please let me know down below. Let me know if you've read any of these books, whether or not when you were a child or now, because they're really fun and I'm glad I reread them, and I'm glad that I read them as a kid too. Anyways, I don't remember how my outro goes, but until next time, I will talk to you in the comments. Bye!